folks, I'm Tom Bassel, and welcome to Week in Review. This is where we talk about the different reviews we did last week. We give you short descriptions of each one. This way, if you listen to this and you're like, that's interesting, I'd like to learn more, then in the description you can click the full length of the review. Here we go.
Hey everybody, Z Garcia here. Last week we put out a new best of the month, showing you some new discoveries to us that we've been enjoying. Go check that out. I also made a few different reviews. So I participated in the Merlin review with the other fellas. I found it to be a Euro game that really did nothing new for me. I felt like I had played the game before. It was unappealing from a graphical standpoint for the most part, but mostly the gameplay was just sort of ho-hum. It has a very, very rich, been there, done that feel to it, and I found it just simply unexciting. I reviewed Alibaba, which is a tile drafting kind of game set up in a pyramid sort of formation, think Mahjong on the computer. And in it you are taking tiles, they score you points, you try to make sets with them, that sort of thing. It's okay. My biggest issue with it was that the materials used to produce the game itself didn't really work that well. It's very fiddly. It's a very fiddly game, and I wish the tiles had been perhaps thicker cardboard, or maybe even plastic. I realize that's expensive, but, knocking the tiles around is a very real possibility. So, I wasn't super happy with it. I reviewed What's It To Ya, which is an old party game, recently reprinted in the version I show you in the video. And What's It To Ya, you are going to be laying out a few cards. You pick the ranking for them, in your opinion, which ones you like more, and everyone else tries to match you, and then the person ranking them moves around the table. That's it. Very simple, basic party game, but I enjoy it. I think it's a cool, clever, nice icebreaker, and it's one that I think I'm going to be hanging on to. I liked it. I reviewed Planet Defenders. This is the new printing from Renegade Game Studios. I already liked the game when it first came out from Emperor S4. And the new printing is largely the same, but they include slight graphical cleanups and nice plastic miniatures instead of cardboard standees in the game. As far as the gameplay goes, it's nice and puzzly. It's enjoyable. It's a fairly quick game. I really do enjoy it. And then lastly, I reviewed Battle for Rokugan, which is a new Legends of the Five Rings themed area control, sort of territory grab game put out by Fantasy Flight Games, and it's got a cool feel to it. I thought it was a game that feels very streamlined, it's very straightforward, but there's a lot of gameplay under the hood. It's sort of the players have to bring that to the table in some way, but it works. I found it enjoyable. I thought the graphical look of the whole thing is perhaps a little too pastel. I do wish the colors were a little more varied, but overall the gameplay is enjoyable and interesting. I thought it was a game that did things I don't normally enjoy in other games, and streamlined them enough where it lets me play the game, not just sort of tackle with the rules. I like that very much. And that's it for me. I will see you all next time.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Week in Review. Well, it was one video short for you this week because of jury duty. Sorry about that, but hey, what can you do? It's jury duty. Well, anyway, I reviewed Tao Long. It's an abstract strategy game where two dragons are battling over a region. There's a lot of different kinds of scenarios in the book, so the what you're actually doing in any specific scenario is explained in the rulebook, but it's a really cool abstract strategy game that uses a Mancala-esque mechanism to choose which of the different kinds of actions you're going to carry out on your turn. Whoever has the last dragon standing is the winner, basically, but it's really cool. Looks really good on the board, too. Go check out my review. Gave it a 7 out of 10. Also did a review for Pie Town, a new worker placement game from Renegade Game Studios, and this one really struck my fancy pretty well. I love worker placement games to begin with, and this one had really cool components, had really fun gameplay that had a deceptively challenging undercurrent to it, where you're trying to figure out what other people's secret recipes are, and you're trying to keep other people from figuring out what yours is at the same time. So it's basically whoever has the most points at the end of 9 rounds in a final bake-off is the winner, but Really fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and the production quality was really good too. Gave it an 8 out of 10. Go check that one out. Also did Miami Dice review with Tom and Z for Merlin, the new collaboration between Feld and Reineck from Queen Games. This one is actually it's a worker placement game, but it's also has a rondel in it, a huge rondel, where you're actually rolling and moving around it. Now, I know you might be saying, you hate that. Well, I kind of do, you're right. But this one has a lot of different, because you're rolling 3 or 4 dice, and you're being able to choose which ones you're going to use at certain times. You can also manipulate the faces of the dice. So it's really cool. Enjoyed it a lot as well. I personally gave it an 8 out of 10, so that's really fun. Go check Merlin out. Also did another episode for Throat Punch Lunch. Had a lot of great segments on this one. A couple of new contributors. One was a returning contributor with a new idea. So go check that out. It's a great show. If you haven't given it a try, please do. Then I also did a top 10 sequels, new editions, or reprints from this year, 2017. These were games that I kind of excluded on purpose from my top 10 games of the year. So I decided I would make one specifically for this category of games that I chose to not include. So that is that for me for Week in Review this week. See you later on.
Okay, well, first, there was a couple games I wasn't so fond of. One was Pixie Queen. Pixie Queen is a worker placement game in which there's this mean Pixie Queen, and she's constantly, yelling at you and making you lose points. Well, you're slaves, Pixie slaves. And you're trying to get points by getting gold, silver, and changing that to gold, and getting rings, and promoting your pixies up to become her servants. Theme was okay. The board is neat looking, but the game just kind of fell short for me. I'm not a big fan of this negativity point scoring type things anyway, but I also didn't feel like there was a lot of strategy involved. Dominion Nocturne. I love Dominion. I still play it. I have a big case here. I play Dominion often compared to most of the games in my collection. And this expansion didn't do much for me. It added a whole bunch of complexity, more piles of cards, lots of stuff, some neat concepts, but just too much really for what I want Dominion to be. Terrorize is a great kids game in which you're rolling dice trying to match eyes in a card, and meanwhile everyone else is rolling a die around trying to make you pass the dice to somebody else. Silly and fun. It really works when you add in the funny action cards in the game. Battle Kittens is a drafting game where you're getting kittens who are going to fight over areas. It's kind of like Smash Up, but it's a drafting style game where you just go around and you're having kittens fight with strength and agility and wisdom and cuteness. And there's a couple special abilities. Very simple but solid drafting game. Dice Throne. This one has I think has potential to become even bigger. Amazing, stunning components. It's a player versus player combat game where you're using dice and you're rolling like Yahtzee style combinations and using that with a mixture of cards to attack them and do damage to them. A lot of fun, very different characters, and like I said, amazing production. I also finally took a look at Pairs. Pairs from James Ernest. This is a deck of cards with 1, 1, 2, 2s, 3, 3s, all the way up to 10, 10s, which is really lets you play a variety of games. And I played several of the games that come in the deluxe pair set and talk about that. I mean, it's not like genre changing or anything, but it is a nice thing. Some of the games are quite good, especially the basic one. Sidereal Confluence. This is a game that I had almost written off based on how it looked and the name of it. But playing this game, it's such an interesting experience. It's unlike anything else I played this year or in a while. It's a big, heavy Euros game, kind of, but it's strong negotiation. The whole game is about trading with other players, the entire thing. And you get cubes and change cubes for other cubes. And it sounds more boring than it is. It's a fascinating game with very, very asymmetrical sides. Cat Lady. This is another game that's almost like a spiritual successor to Sushi Go, in which there's a grid of 3x3 cards, and you are going to take a row or a column and keep all those cards and score cards for cats, and you have to feed the cats and get sets of cat toys and things like that. Works really well. And Cursed Court, this game from Atlas Games, is you're basically bidding on different areas in the game, hoping that these cards are going to show up in this tab. Well, you know a little bit of information, but not all the information, so you're watching other players. Stunning components. It's a lot of fun to play. Highly recommend it. That's what I played this week, folks. I also did Miami Dice with Sam and Z, so you can check that out. Anyway, those are all the different reviews that we did this past week. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell, and you've been watching the Dice. Oh, yeah, I should probably tell you what the Miami Dice was. It was Merlin. And I liked Merlin. It was a good, solid worker placement game with dice moving around. I liked the different options. I mean, it was a little bit cubey, for me, but I still think the game itself was a really excellent game. All right, now I can finish. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. Week in Review.